Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome back to the journey, the quest to review every single episode of The X-Files. Today we're having a look at Season 4, Episode 3, Unruhe. Or is it Unruhe? I don't know. It's the last name
It's
of...
Unruhe.
Unruhe?
It means fucking unrest.
I don't know. All I know is it's the last name of Maoist Rebel News, based fucking Maoist Rebel News.
Well, and it means unrest, which is insightful in the Maoist Rebel News' life.
So, this episode starts off, this kind of like drug addict, sketchy looking bitch is going to get her passport photo taken at the pharmacy there. She goes in and she gets her picture taken, but she forgets to pay. So she goes...
Now, on the way, she's arguing with her fucking boyfriend. You know, because they've committed some sort of crime or whatever, and the cops go by and they're sketching out, you know, and there's a lot of unrest in the scene before she goes in to get her passport photo taken. I thought that was important.
It certainly is, that's right. And then she forgets to pay, so she goes back out to the car to get her wallet, and a guy bumps into her.
Well, this hooded figure in this fucking hooded rain jacket that came into the store and then followed her out and bumped into her, and she feels a pain. Because you find out later he stabbed her with a needle.
Yeah, with like drugs in it to knock her the fuck out. So she's like stumbling towards the car, and she gets to it, and the boyfriend is fucking dead. He's been fucking shanked.
Through the ear, you know.
He's bleeding out his eardrums there. Yeah. So... she ends up collapsing from what she got hit with, and we cut to the X-Files.
Well, no, the hooded figure puts her in a fucking car, and then you see the old guy from the drugstore opens up the photo, and it's like her passport photo is her screaming with like all these ghost figures over top of her. And he's, what the fuck, you know? And then it cuts to the X-Files.
All right. Anyway, then we get into the opening sequence there. And it's Mulder and Scully. They're driving to the scene of this case. And Mulder shows Scully the photo. And she's like, oh, that was taken by the kidnapper. He goes, no, that was actually taken by a 65-year-old druggist who, you know, says that's not the photo he was taking. So, you know, they get to the drugstore. And, you know, they're interviewing the chemist. And Scully's kind of skeptical of him. And she's like, well, your film's out of date. Is that a crime? You know. And anyway, by the time they're
well, and this guy like has like a prosthetic leg. You know, they notice that like he can't walk very fast. Like it's obviously not him.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been the kidnapper there.
Now she notices too. There's a heater underneath where he keeps the film. And she has a back and forth with Mulder about how the heat can change the chemistry of the film.
But it's a cult.
Right?
It's like a hard cult.
Yeah, but it's insightful into the fucking, like, whole premise of the episode. The heat changing the chemistry of the film.
What?
Well, because it's the psychic photography, buddy. The guy's paranoid schizophrenia changes the chemistry of the film. You know, and that's why it draws to the heat, and it brings up the idea right away of the heat changing the chemistry of the film because it's the heat put off from Buddy's paranoid schizophrenia.
I don't know. I thought it was like the psychic powers altering the film there.
Well, that's what it is. That's what the psychic powers physically are. It's the heat given off from Buddy's paranoid schizophrenia. And the howlers in his mind.
The howlers. They're real boys.
That's what the whole episode's about,
No,
buddy.
man, that's not what the episode's about, man. The episode's about metaphysical Aristotelian.
About what?
Yes. It's about
what did you just
It's about Aristotelian metaphysics.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, that's what I read into
Where's
it.
the J papers on that?
The J paper exists, man.
Does it?
No. It actually came out of Western. It's a 2018 study from the sociology department.
Okay, so what happens next there, Paul?
Well, what happens next there is I don't even give a shit. what happened?
Another retread of yesterday.
Another retread of yesterday's amazing fucking review. The best X-Files review we've ever done there for Teleco. Really great review there.
Yeah, no.
So anyway, Mulder and Scully fucking... they get summoned, but the sheriff's like, I think we might have wasted your time in coming out here. And they end up going to
the house.
Yeah,
and
the
the
house.
fucking sheriff's telling them about, well, they found all these credit cards. They were committing credit card fraud. They're about to leave town. And this is what happened. And Mulder thinks, well, if, like, they were trying to flee this crime, why did she kill the boyfriend, right? And he goes in and finds her camera. He takes 4 pictures over his hand, and it's like an identical picture to the passport photo that comes out. So he has a dialogue with Scully about psychic photography, like the phenomena of that, of how the mind can influence the photo. Because it's the paranoid schizophrenia heat that's actually causing the photos.
So, he ends up shooting out a few different photos there, right?
Four.
Four photos of her.
And then he says, well, the guy must have been stalking her and watching her through the window, right? And that's why his paranoid schizophrenia also impacted this camera.
Mulder starts, analyzing it and getting into the mindset of the killer. You know, he's talking about how he would be towering over her, thinking about how he was a god and stuff like this.
Well, not yet. First, they find the girl fucking, like, walking down just mindless, you know, like a zombie down the road in this fucking nightgown. And they do, like, a test on her, and they find out she was given an ice pick lobotomy. She was given, like, a lobotomy through her fucking eyeballs, you know, and it's just lost all sense of consciousness at this point. She's no longer sentient, you know. She has the mind frame of Mama JF all of a sudden. You know?
By the way, Mama JF, it's fucking coming in an hour, boys. Fucking live fucking Mama JF.
Yeah, so another girl gets abducted, you know, and you see a scene with fucking the guy given, like, speaking in German. He's using the word Unruhe. And when they did, like, the brain scan on the other girl that they found that got lobotomized, she was just repeating the word Unruhe, right? Which Scully, because she took German in fucking college, she understands that means unrest, right? So there's a dialogue there. And then where you were at before is what happens next, I think.
Yeah, he's doing this analysis of it. They end up going to the crime lab, right? And then,
yeah, so they're investigating the next fucking crime. Scully sees a fucking, like, that this construction company was working outside of each of the fucking crime scenes. You know, so she thinks, I'm going to go investigate, like, the people that work at this construction company. But Mulder takes off back to Washington to investigate the photo. So Scully ends up speaking to the foreman while Mulder's looking at the photo, right? And he finds fucking, like, in the photo, there's the shadow of the abductor. He has extra long legs.
No one cares.
Meanwhile, Scully's talking to the foreman and he's wearing fucking stilts. You know, so there's that dialogue. And then Scully says to the guy, Unruhe, and he just friggin' takes off with his fucking stilts and she has to apprehend him.
So far as the base text-to-speech poster is concerned, it's not rigged for Dick. We didn't want Dick to win the first round. Maybe you ought to go vote for Ian Miles Chong if you think he's the biggest grifter that hard there, buddy.
It blows my fucking mind that Dick beat Baked Alaska. Like, how can you be a bigger grifter than Baked Alaska, you know? Yeah. I think the word grift was coined just for Baked Alaska.
But yeah, we say hello to Left-Hand Psychopath. This is a good image here in the chat here of you there, Surfer. There, you taking a puff off your cigar. There I am. You know, I don't know quite what I'm doing in my photo. I guess I'm jerking myself off.
Scratching your chin a little bit.
Yeah. Doing the classic X-Files PvP. Scratching his fucking chin. But, where the fuck were we in the episode there before this fucking pig came in and fucked it, this swine?
Yeah, so they fucking got the guy and they're trying to interrogate him, you know. You find out that, like, he killed his father with an axe handle, paralyzed him for life, and then got committed for paranoid schizophrenia. And you also find out that around the similar time, his sister committed suicide because the father raped her or something like that. You don't know exactly what, but what he's done, the way he's twisted himself into delusion is he blames what his sister is saying about his father on fucking these howlers in her brain. And she ultimately committed suicide because of these howlers in her brain. And he probably also, it's not explicitly said, but it's probably implicit, that it was the howlers in his brain that caused him to paralyze his father and beat him with the axe handle. So because he's lied to himself, and that's why his paranoid schizophrenia gives off such a heat that it impacts the photos, because he's twisted his mind into such a hard delusion, right? And that builds on the previous episode, Teleco, with the fucking concept of self-deception and how we self-deceive ourselves. Here it's showing how the self-deception ultimately, really fucked him up. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to save these women by lobotomizing them and killing the howlers in their fucking brain. And there's a scene in the interrogation where Scully's fucking rattled, and he goes you're troubled, and you see his fucking eyes going because he can see the howlers.
There's the performance from the killer in this episode, I think, is pretty good. There's a lot of subtleties to his eye twitches and his movement. And, I really did like, how he was denying it at the beginning seemed almost like a very truthful thing. I almost believed him that he wasn't the killer during that interrogation. And then Mulder comes in at the end of the interrogation there and kind of breaks him by putting those photos down and saying, is this what you see when you close your eyes?
And it's the howlers, it's the original photo with the fucking howlers. And then he fucking... So they go and they find the woman fucking dead. And he says there, she's safe now because he thinks he saved her from the howlers and she's fucking dead in the woods, right? It shows proportionality that he's trying to cure people's mental illness by lobotomizing them and killing them, which is proportionally fucks them up a lot worse than any sort of fucking mental illness could do to them.
Yeah, so anyway, they find her and they're about to leave town, but while they're booking the killer, what ends up happening is they take his mug shot and the cop pulls it up and he sees himself with a fucking bullet through his brain.
Yeah.
And the guy fucking grabs his gun and blows him away, but it didn't shoot him in the head. He didn't shoot him in the head. I guess he shot him in the throat, Mulder said.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that is because it's sort of in the interrogation too, it comes out that this guy isn't consciously aware that he's psychically influencing these photographs. He's not actual conscious of this paranormal phenomenon. It's not reality that's doing it. It shows here because it shows the cop getting shot through the head instead of the throat. That it's what he's envisioning in his fucking mind that's causing it. It's not actual reality that's causing it, right?
Yeah.
But he's not conscious of it.
Yeah, it's not something that he's consciously controlling the way that the photographs are turning out. It's a manifestation of his subconscious desires and his subconscious. It's not even thoughts that maybe are directly going through his mind, but that are a layer deeper in the subconscious is what I think's going on there. So he fucking ends up escaping, and he robs the fucking drugstore. So Mulder and Scully stay in the town to try and get things under control. But while they're investigating at the drugstore, Scully goes out, and he fucking gets Scully with a needle in the foot and fucking kidnaps Scully.
He's hiding under the vehicle. Which the guy's got the body type of PPP, so it doesn't make a ton of sense how he's fit himself underneath of the vehicle.
I don't know. I think he's a lot less fat than I am.
I don't know.
And I don't know. Even I could probably fit under a fucking vehicle.
Fit under under. Buddy, it's like this much room underneath the vehicle.
You can still get under there.
Like, I could, yeah, but I wouldn't have a lot of room to move around.
I don't know, man. There are plenty of mechanics who are kind of fucking portly.
Yeah, but
they hoist it,
up, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I think he could have fucking fit underneath there. Because wasn't it a van, for fuck's sake?
Yeah, but still, you're dealing with, like, this much fucking space. Right?
I don't know. What I found more fucking weird about it was that, like, he didn't seem to, like, get her in a vein or anything. It was just, like, a straight stab to the foot. I don't know if that would have worked, but then you were like, well, I think it's this cartel drug. What was it?
Well, it's like a scopolamine, it's scopolamine, like hydromorph fucking mix. I don't know, I could be completely wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure scopolamine is the fucking drug that they put on their palm and, like, they'll walk by and blow it at you, and when you breathe it in, it just fucking knocks you out.
Yeah, some crazy shit there. So he kidnaps Scully and he's fucking duct taped her up in a fucking chair and he's, like, speaking to her in German.
But Scully also speaks German, so that's how she fucking, like, gets into his mind and delays getting lobotomized. She fucking speaks back to him in German. He tells her about the howlers and about how she goes, the howlers aren't in my mind. And he goes, no, see, they made you say that right there, you know? That's proof of the howlers. You know, so she's bought. He's about to fucking lobotomize her, but she tells him, if the howlers exist, they're in your mind. So he gets all fucked up by that and takes pictures of himself to see if there's howlers.
Yeah. So anyway, Mulder fucking...
Because he's convinced, because Mulder showed him the pictures earlier on, that the howlers exist. Because he thinks, like, he's not actually conscious that he's fucking psychically manipulating these pictures. He thinks they're actual pictures of reality that are catching the howlers.
Yeah, so Mulder ends up tracking them fucking down, and he's, like, looking around, and he realizes, because there's, like, the dental tooth on the keys in this fucking RV, that this is the one. And he fucking breaks in, he fucking smashes the door just in the nick of time.
Shoots the guy down,
shoots him
right
just as he's about to lobotomize Scully. And we get this final kind of wrap-up, which is very similar to the end of Grotesque, where... Scully's kind of talking about how she was able to interact and engage with this guy.
Well, she had to empathize with him and get into his mind, but by getting into his mind was like by getting into the mind of the monster can get into her mind. Right? And it's very similar. Like, it's the exact same thing as in the end of Grotesque when there's, like, the fucking cop, the investigator that gets into the mind of the killer because he's so obsessed with these crimes that it actually fucking takes over his mind, right? But it's a different perspective because in Grotesque, it's like an investigator, whereas here Scully had to do it because she was the victim, right? So it was how the investigator would get into that mind versus how the victim would get into that mind, right? Which was just an interesting parallel or contrast or whatever.
Yeah. I think the episode was fine. It was written by Vince Gilligan, who wrote Breaking Bad and created Breaking Bad. I don't think this was on the same level as Pusher for me. Pusher was a pretty original concept. I thought a pretty interesting episode.
As Pusher? What the fuck did Pusher have to do with this?
It's written by the same guy.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't think it was quite at the same level as Pusher in terms of the overall excitement and kind of the uniqueness of it. It was a decent enough episode there. There's some kind of parallels there with Grotesque. I don't know. I didn't think it was necessarily the most original concept out there. The whole photography kind of thing was okay. It was just kind of like a side plot thing that didn't have that much to do ultimately with the killer, and it's never really resolved how that was done or whatever. That's fine. But overall, like, it's a decent enough, like, straightforward kind of procedural crime drama episode of the X-Files. A good enough Monster of the Week. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7.4. You know, it built on how this guy had self-deceived himself into paranoid schizophrenia, and it built on the idea from the Teleco, the last episode, on fucking self-deception and deception in the mind, right? It sort of showed the results of that, how he ultimately spiraled into paranoid schizophrenia because he didn't want to accept that his father raped his sister, you know, and that it was by his own free will that he beat his father into paralysis.
The performance from the killer was pretty good. The interrogation scene with Mulder and Scully confronting him about his past was a good scene. When he's got Scully in the chair and, you know, there's some tension there. That was also a pretty good scene. David Duchovny as Mulder, I think, did a really good job in this episode as well. Some funny lines about, like, tasing the fucking... the old dentist, and, you know, both times. And so I think, you know, it's a pretty good episode. It's serviceable. It was better than the last episode. You find
out based Aryan waifu Scully speaks German.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's about it for this one. You got anything else?
No, that's about all I got.
All right, we'll see you. We'll see you guys in the field where I died or something like that. I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.